Thank you for being here. This part of democracy where the administration rubber meets the legislative road. You know, I have an important thing. There's a lot of things I would like to talk about, and I was going to mention things like career and technical education, higher ed, being my second round questions, but I appreciate what the chairmen are doing to keep us on task. I could go through 5 questions about the property tax reduction plan, but instead what I'm going to do is, when you know the answer, I'm going to just make a statement about each one of the things that I would question you to verify, and then ask 1 or 2 questions about it at the end, depending on your answer. So for me, a legislator that comes from Lehigh and Berks counties, known as the hotbed of the elimination plan idea, a political postulate for me is that a reduction plan is never an elimination plan. And I think it's important for me and the people in my district that the reason why they are mutually exclusive is because of the governor's plan. You know, your administration calls it a school property tax reduction plan, making it sound like it's a good thing for taxpayers, when in fact it uses components of the elimination plan, that idea, components out of there, to raise overall aggregate taxes on Pennsylvanians. I think and I believe that that hurts credibility and your mission to help, our mission to help children in Pennsylvania. Governor Wolf's tax hikes are the largest tax hike proposal in my memory. The numbers that I'm seeing of Governor Wolf's plan shows 404 out of 500 school district taxpayers pay more. That's 4 out of 5 taxpayers groups pay more. If we add up all the taxpayers that are paying more, it's $6.3 billion, a big figure. If we subtract out $3.6 billion of relief, we end up with a net tax hike of $2.7 billion. That's about a 10% overall tax hike in just the property tax part of the governor's budget. While Governor Wolf and your team describe your plan as a property tax reduction plan, I'm going to say it again, I'm a marketing guy, $6.3 billion, you take away $3.6 billion, and you end up with $2.7 billion in a tax increase, raised under the guise, out of the bully pulpit of property tax reduction. $2.7 billion tax increase, said to be property tax reduction. My question is, if Governor Wolf's tax reduction plan raises $2.7 billion and it's not being used for reduction, where does it go? What do you use what the governor and your team are calling property tax reduction? What do you use it for if you're not using it for property tax reduction?
So of course, not knowing what questions we're going to be answering when we've come in, I would love to, I guess, to get to more into the specifics of the formula you used. I definitely appreciate an opportunity to sit and we can bring the team. We could just sit down and mull over the the formula in itself. Just to make sure I'm answering the question correctly. However, what I will share, and I think it's important to mention that. As I'm here advocating on behalf of the education budget, pre-K through higher ed. It's I understand, and we have to be very clear to say this is part of a bigger, a much larger process in which our departments who work on behalf of the specific stakeholders, and for me it's in relation to children, we're asked to come up with a way to create greater investments into our schools. And in collaboration, we work with a broader team to discuss how to generate revenue to meet those investments. And it's comprehensive. I mean, it's not, as the governor has shared, it's not a menued approach. It's not, it's not a compartmentalized, approach to funding. It's a comprehensive approach to funding. So why I hesitate to, in terms of the process, it could be tied to a non-educational component. It could be in terms of revenue and investment. So I think it's best, I'm intrigued. I took I took some notes, but if, we could sit down and kind of review, I'd love to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. And my both chairmen know what kind of legislator I am, and don't really intend to put you on the spot. We all thank you very much for taking on this task. It's a huge task. When I said our goal of helping educate children is important, when some members talk to you about your past, your background, you come up just like every child comes to school with a suitcase of, and it's good things in there and bad things sometimes. You come to this job with your suitcase. And I ask you to use that suitcase when you're working on the governor's administrative team. And I'm using you, when I go into a bank, they say, Representative Day, could I have your identification? And you know what I say? Thank you every time, and I give it to them. And then if I have a beef, I tell that person, and they say, I'm sorry, I'm just the CSR. And I said, your company puts you before me. Your organization, your administration has you before us. I have to ask you these questions. That is the most important thing to me, that the governor has said we need to take it holistically as a basket approach. Well, when I look in that basket, it's gray, cloudy, murky. It's meant to be that way. I believe I was sent to Harrisburg to pull out two components of that, put them together, and have a real policy debate about those two things. And they can be things, something from the other side, something from our side, and do that. In the gray area with the clouds in the basket doesn't work for me, doesn't work for people in my district, and I'm sending that message to the governor back through you, and I told him last week of the same exact thing. It doesn't work like that. People believe and can do some of the things that you're asking them to do if you're honest with them and upfront with them and say, this is a redistribution program, and we're trying to do this to help these kids. Let's be forthright, open and honest, and just put those items out on the table, and let's have a policy discussion about them. Mr. Acting Secretary, I appreciate you being here. And finally, Mr. Chairman, just want to make the statement very clear that a reduction plan is never an elimination plan because of this plan or this proposal that the governor has put forward. Thank you very much.